Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Parent Pod. Every week, we come to you with a little education, some connection, and a lot of fun. This week, it is a full moon, and if you just caught our technical difficulties, I apologize. But you know what? Hey, we're parents, we're good problem solvers and critical thinkers, and we're just going to roll with it tonight. So, cheers to the full moon. This week, I am being joined once again by Jacob Stapledon from Children's Cove. Really excited to have him on tonight because we're going to be talking about their new IU2U campaign, as well as their new chat live feature, their block party, and some live trainings. There's a lot of exciting things coming up, and you definitely don't want to miss this conversation tonight. In addition to being joined by Jacob this evening, we are going to be awarding a question of the evening, and I am actually going to throw it up right now just so everybody can start getting ready. And if you answer the question of the evening, you are going to be entered to win a $25 cash card. So this week, our question of the week is: you have $3 to spend at the dollar store. What do you buy? Share your answers in the comments for a chance to win the $25 cash card. We're going to be talking about your answers at the end once Jacob and I are done talking. In addition to that, we have a kindness winner. It's so exciting. You guys are nominating your friends. It's something that we really love about this weekly show, that we get to recognize the unsung heroes and parents and people in our community, who might not otherwise get recognized. But guess what? We see you, and we're going to recognize what an amazing person you are, and we're going to give you a little gift every week. So please, 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 we have a link tree, and I'm going to pop it up now. You need to visit this link. You can submit questions, anonymous confessions. You can submit someone for a nomination for a kindness. We want to hear your story. So don't be shy. We see that the stories are rolling in, and we so appreciate them because they're so exciting to read, and we really love it. So that being said, I am now going to bring on Jacob this evening. Good evening, Jacob. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Amy. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Hanging in there.
We're rolling with the punches tonight, right?
Absolutely.
Why not? It's a COVID year.
COVID year, it's a full moon, it's a Friday night. It's just all of those things.
And did you hear the locusts are coming back?
All I can think about is where we were this time last year. Half the world was on fire. We were losing celebrities, and then COVID came, and now we have a very similar beginning to this year. And I don't know. I'm trying to be optimistic.
We should update the bingo card for the year.
Absolutely, a new bingo card.
Remember last year when one of the things they said was flying sharks, right? And then there ended up being flying sharks after a storm.
Sharknado. It's all coming. It's all coming true.
I mean, I'm living it. Maybe we do live in a simulation. I don't know. Another topic for another time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm really happy that you are joining us again this evening. It's exciting. You've been with us before to talk about internet safety, body safety. These conversations that you and I have had are phenomenal. They're conversations that all of us need to be having regularly with our kids. And so you work with Children's Cove. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit who haven't seen you before, tell them a little bit about yourself and about Children's Cove.
Absolutely. So I am the Community Education and Outreach Coordinator at Children's Cove, and Children's Cove is the Children's Advocacy Center for Cape Cod and the islands. What we do is we work collaboratively with all departments of law enforcement, the Department of Children and Families, and the District Attorney's Office for the comprehensive investigation and the best practice response to cases involving crimes against children. So specifically, we work with cases involving child sexual abuse, severe physical abuse, witness to domestic violence, and commercial sexual exploitation of children, or the online exploitation of children, so human trafficking. We work with those investigative agencies to make sure that we're providing the best investigative response that is minimizing the amount of time that a child would have to talk about the experience that they had, to get the most factual, straightforward information needed for investigators. And then we coordinate with our multidisciplinary team to provide support services for that child and their entire non-offending family, from family and victim advocacy, mental health care, medical care, whatever services and supports that that family may need, the mental health supports and therapy, anywhere from the beginning of the time that they come to us out to a year or even longer than that. So really providing that comprehensive wraparound support and care for those child victims.
Absolutely. And so over time, you guys have kind of evolved and you've been developing some new things, some of which we're going to talk about tonight, and they're really exciting. One of the things that I've always loved about our conversations, and before we dive into it, you've always promoted, it's really important to have the conversation. And we've used that hashtag before.
Mm-hmm.
Some information came out. I don't remember. It was recently. Can you just kind of touch on this really quick? There was a statistic that came out, how many children in Massachusetts were trafficked in the year 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a percentage from the South Shore and Cape and Islands, which was shocking. I mean, not so much to me because I'm aware and I keep up with this, but I think shocking to a lot of people. And it included children from 2 towns, at least, on Cape Cod.
Yeah. So actually that statistic was specific to the southeast region of Massachusetts. I worked collaboratively with our sister CACs in Bristol County and Plymouth County. And we really wanted to show a full snapshot and an image of how many children had been sexually exploited, either commercially through human trafficking or online exploitation, sextortion or sex trafficking online. And there were 280 children specifically in the South Shore, including the Cape and the Islands, who had been impacted in that way. And so when we bring those numbers out, and we want people to be aware that that's just those types of cases. And those are only the ones that have made a disclosure. There's been enough information that's gotten to the point where there's been a report where we've been able to have a coordinated response in those areas. And so we know the number is actually higher than that are children who are being victimized or who have been victimized in that way. And we just want to get that information out. And so we still have that article up on our website, childrenscove.org. It's in our community news section where parents, caregivers, professionals in the field, anybody can learn more about what we're really calling about the top 10 things we want you to know about commercial sexual exploitation of children in Southeast Massachusetts. Because it's not that kind of R-rated movie, that blockbuster, that thought process behind it. Trafficking and sexual exploitation of children can be far more nuanced, can be really fly under the radar, and children don't need to be disappeared, missing, kidnapped for them to be exploited. Oftentimes children can be commercially and sexually exploited right from their homes.
It's a tough topic, and we've come a long way, right? Because this topic used to be really taboo, and in a very short period of time we've come so far, and yet we have so far to go still, which you and I have talked so many times. It can be incredibly frustrating because it just seems like common sense. It seems like everybody should just be passionate about this topic. It's about our kids.
100%.
The things that are happening when you start to delve into this, and Jacob was great to share some stuff with me last year that I took they were national trainings and videos on these things. And it is astounding to see what occurs worldwide, this nationwide, our state, our own community. It is, once your eyes are opened, you can't close them again. You can't. It would be doing the wrong thing. You cannot stand by and do nothing. And so people know I'm very passionate about this subject. Obviously, Jacob's very passionate about it because our kids don't deserve it. Everybody deserves a fair shot at life. And this is one thing they should not have to deal with. And the world's changing, right? We've changed. We're more on our computers.
Mm-hmm.
Our younger and younger, our kids are on these games. And, when games first came out, you're playing Carmen Sandiego like us in the, in the 90s.
Yep.
But you weren't playing in live time with other people.
No.
There were still dangers then, the AOL chat rooms. And, that was kind of the start of it. But we have games now that seem harmless, but it can come in very small things. Yeah. So slither.io, it could be a name of a character. It could be in Fortnite. It could be in Among Us.
It could be any of those. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what my son was playing Among Us, which seems like a harmless game, right? And one of the characters had an inappropriate name for the character, whoever was playing, and then kept putting inappropriate things in the chat. Luckily, because I've had my conversation with my child, thanks to Jacob and his advice, my child was able to come to me and talk to me about these. Hey, what is this? Makes this is inappropriate. What is this about? And we were able to have conversations. And that's really the focus of what we're talking about, having
100%.
Conversations.
Definitely.
There's nothing wrong with them.
No, and that's the piece that we are always wanting to get across is, there is a lot of scary information out there. There's still a lot of facts, and if you really dive into it, you're right, it can make the world seem like a tremendously terrifying place. And the work that we do at Children's Cove, the stories that we hear, the trainings that we get, the information and knowledge that we have, again, that's that burden of knowledge as professionals in this field and as adults that we have. But it doesn't need to be that extreme. It needs to be about being able to have conversations about safety and boundaries, and a lot of that basic stuff, just starting those conversations that can lead to safety long term. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And they don't end up being uncomfortable conversations if you start right from the beginning, like we've talked about, simple stuff like body safety, teaching the appropriate names, teaching respect for your body. They're things that you need to have conversations about, and they're normal. And as they get older, if a child comes up and when they're ready and starts to, get a little older, we're approaching hormone age, and expresses, a question, we've had that conversation recently where it's, I'm so glad you want to talk about this. You don't need to be ashamed. You're not in trouble. This is part of growing up, and it's a normal thing.
Absolutely.
If you don't educate your kids, somebody else is going to.
Yeah, no, and that's what we always talk about is, have these conversations early, have them often, have them regularly, because the more that you have them, not only are you going to feel more comfortable with having those conversations as a parent, but it becomes a normal dialogue between yourself and your child. And so when you do get into those ages where they are going to be talking about things like sex and dating, and there's going to be more access online, and there may be more exposure to things, having that established connection of being able to talk about uncomfortable things makes those conversations easier, and it increases safety. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crucial, and it does get easier. I think, like you said, you become more comfortable as the parent, you become more comfortable, I think, as the child. And again, it's all about respect.
Definitely.
So that's what it comes down to. It's just so important. So I hope everybody's ready. Take some notes, because you got some great information tonight. Let's start with, you've got some new awareness campaigns.
Absolutely. So over the last year, we've really wanted to take a look at how are we getting this message out. As we were talking about, this has been a conversation that's been taboo for a long time. We remember, 20 years ago, there was no way we were going to get a radio ad out talking about, how to have conversations about body safety and sexual abuse. And we've been able to do that. We've pushed those boundaries. We've really tested that. We've had poster campaigns where we're encouraging parents to have conversations. We rolled out a couple of years ago our Rainbow Letter campaign, where, a child that we had worked with wrote this beautiful letter to us, talking about their experience at Children's Cove, and worked with us on developing that as an awareness campaign poster, and bringing that information out. And so with this last year, where we've all been so tremendously impacted by COVID-19, been, stuck in our homes sometimes for long periods of time, and we've really been pushed into the online world, we really wanted to make sure that we were getting that message out across these platforms, and doing it in an effective way. So we're really rolling out 3 brand new campaigns that is encouraging just what we were talking about: conversations, about stepping up, about speaking. So pretty soon, if you haven't already seen them, there's going to be new videos, campaigns that are coming out. One is specifically for parents. It's about having those conversations. It's raising awareness about having conversations in those small moments, when you're in the car, when you're getting ready to go swimming and you're changing into bathing suits, just like we've talked about, really encouraging that and pushing that message and that conversation forward. We also have another one, which is specifically for teenagers or for kids, letting them know that they are not alone, that if something has happened to them, no matter when it happened, no matter if it happened one time or more than one time, no matter whether it was with an adult or whether it was with another youth or a peer, whether it was somebody they knew or somebody they didn't know, that they're not alone. As we've talked about many times in your program, nationally, 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be victims of sexual abuse before their 18th birthday. And still, we're struggling with that statistic that only 1 out of every 10 child victims will ever disclose their abuse. But
So before you go further, let's talk about that. So
definitely.
1 in 4. So right now, I want everybody to think about this. Your kid's in elementary school. They're in a class of 20. Out of the 20 kids, 5, right? No, 4. Am I doing math right?
1 in 4 girls.
1 in every 4 of the girls of the class. So let's say there's 4 girls in the class this year. Then one of them, statistically, is going to be sexually assaulted by the time she's 18.
Yep.
1 of 6 of those boys in that class are going to be sexually assaulted. And only 1 of every 10 is going to disclose that to
Absolutely.
ever.
Yeah.
That is staggering, because you sit there and you think about your kids' classmates and you start to put a face to it. That really makes that statistic hit home, I think.
Yeah.
And I think people really need to start to think about it that way. It's not just a number. This is somebody you know. This is going to happen.
And that's the challenge that we have, because when we talk about those numbers, when we bring this out, and we've been doing this work since 1997, just at Children's Cove, and really since 1986, the Child Advocacy Center model. When we're talking about this, these numbers have been pretty consistent for a long period of time. Child sexual abuse is a pandemic, and when we talk about that, especially now with that newfound context and understanding of what a pandemic really is, it is a long-standing and pervasive public health issue, and child sexual abuse is one of those major pandemics that our country has faced for a really long time. And the stigma of talking about it, that stigma that we're talking about, this taboo and talking about it, has really been one of those issues that has led to only 10% of child victims ever disclosing. And that's not just when they're children, but that's over the course of their lifetime. And these studies are followed up by, are done through the Adverse Childhood Experiences study, which if you go to the CDC website, you can learn more about that. You go to Adverse Childhood Experiences, you just Google that, you're going to find a lot of information out there. These are longstanding studies that have been going on for quite some time. And this is where that information comes from, is, it's anonymous surveys that have gone out nationally to get this information. So only 10% of child victims ever disclose. And so that trauma, that impact follows them throughout a lifetime. And so when we're talking about pushing that envelope and trying to break through the taboo, trying to break through the stigma, that's where we want to show those survivors, and especially those kids today, that you don't have to be silent about this. You're not alone. Unfortunately, there's so many others who have been impacted, but those that have been able to find their voice, who have been able to come forward and say, I need some help about this, they've been able to walk through that process and ask for help, come to Children's Cove or to a children's advocacy center elsewhere in the state or across the country, and begin that process of talking about it. It doesn't always have to lead to charges and a trial. Sometimes just getting that out gets that weight lifted. And that's something that we really want to encourage with youth who are out there today, who are holding on to that, because we know there's so many who are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I like the word, how you use the word. It's like it is a pandemic. It's an endemic. Yeah. It's been going on for a long time. I mean, you're talking, if you really did your research back in hundreds of years, you're talking pretty much the dawn of time.
There's context and social context and historical context for things, but even if we just put it to the last 50 years, people know that this is something that's wrong, and people know that it's something that impacts children negatively. And when we think about just smaller anecdotes, the Catholic diocese in Boston, and
Mhm.
how many people were impacted, the U.S. gymnastics scandal,
Oh,
and how many girls were impacted just by one person. When we think about that and then we put that out across our entire nation, it really lends the perspective of how big of an issue this really is. And that's why we are here talking about it. This is why we are raising awareness. But as I was saying before, not trying to make it unreachable, but make a connection to say, we can prevent this and we can do things to secure safety for our children by talking about body safety, by letting people know that it's okay to talk about things if something did happen. Yeah.
absolutely. Again, it starts with the conversation. It starts at home. It starts with you. And, you mentioned the gymnastics thing. If those conversations, and I don't know whether they did, but had those conversations had to the extent that maybe they needed to, and that all along the way growing up, would those girls have been empowered before that point? That would have stopped. I mean, maybe it still would have happened with some, but would they have become empowered and blown the whistle long before? I mean, that's a question.
Well, I know that in one interview, Ali Raceman, who is a big proponent, a big speaker, she does a lot of speaking for Darkness to Light, which is another fantastic resource. She mentioned specifically in one interview, at no point did anybody ever explain to me what child sexual abuse was. And she noted that was something that it probably would have made a difference for her. And so that's something, again, where, when we're talking about these things, we want to talk about body safety and body awareness and understanding. But then when you're comfortable and when you can have that dialogue about what is child sexual abuse, what are those kinds of things that cross the line, and you don't necessarily need to use those specific terms, child sexual abuse, to give it a label, but you can definitely talk about what are those things that are appropriate, what are not appropriate, when you need to speak up. Absolutely.
And there's a lot of little things that can happen before that point. And we talk about just being exposed to, a scene on a video game, a scene on TV, or a word, or, there's little subtle things along the way. I mean, we call those grooming,
Yeah.
but there's even things built into our society that make it seem, oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
You see the surge in TikTok. There was that Netflix special, Cuties. I don't know if you saw it. I actually watched it with an open mind.
Uh-huh.
I kind of understood the message overall that the person was trying to get across. I didn't
Yeah.
take it the way a lot of people took it. I took it as they're making the point that, guess what? Your kids are watching these videos. They're idolizing people. And that girl in particular, her mother wasn't having that conversation with her. So she went out looking for the information and just happened across a site that then educated her. And then she felt cool. And it snowballs.
And that's the piece that when we're talking about having the conversation, it's allowing opportunities to talk about what are the things that you see in media, what are
Yes.
the things that you hear in music, and using those examples and checking in with your child is, hey, has there been anything you've seen on TV or in a movie lately that you kind of had second thoughts about or seemed kind of inappropriate to me or to you? Let's talk about it. And without judgment, without saying, well, I'm not going to let you watch that again, because they're going to be exposed. And like we said, is there's going to be risks. There's going to be things that come up, and allowing you to be a safe person to have a conversation with is tremendously important.
Absolutely. And you and I, before we move on, we talked about this briefly this morning, and that happened by accident. There's no Netflix lock your account. Everybody has a different one. And come to find out that my son had gotten on and watched Deadpool. He thought it was a superhero movie. And there's a pretty racy scene right in the beginning of the movie.
Yep.
Unbeknownst to me, he'd watched the movie. The conversation came up later. Again, because we have open conversations, he came to us with it and said, hey, that kind of made me uncomfortable. What is that? Like, what's going on? And that opened the door. And he wasn't, bashful. He wasn't ashamed. I said, you don't have, and you're not in trouble, but let's have a conversation about it. You're
Fantastic.
absolutely. And so again, it's approaching it with this open mind, because it will make later conversations easier.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's the piece that really ties into our other campaign that we're launching as well, which is the IU2U campaign. And IU2U stands for It's Up to You. Be safe and being online, being smart online. As we know, everybody's time online has really increased. We had done a survey with those who are subscribed to our newsletter, which you can do on our website, and we had asked, out of those who had responded, one of the questions was, have your children had increased unmonitored internet time? And hi, Amy. 96% of responding parents indicated that their children had increased unmonitored time online. And so when we take that into account, we all know everything that's online. And what's online is everything. And a lot of the things that we may not necessarily want our children to have. Children now younger and younger are getting access to internet-enabled devices, Switches, Game Boys, PlayStations, Xbox, home computers, tablets, cell phones, any of those kinds of things which have access to the internet. I'm going to tell you, no matter how many safety features and protocols you have on there may be a way inadvertently for children to get around that. Well, what we had talked about last time is wherever children are online, those people who are looking to harm or exploit children are as well. So no matter whether it's Minecraft or what used to be a Club Penguin or whatever those things, there are people that are there that are imitating kids who are trying to take advantage of kids. And so our new campaign is really there to educate parents and kids about what are some of the basic premises about being safe, being smart online, and that knowing it is up to you ultimately. There's a lot of technology, there's a lot of privacy settings, there's passwords, there's things which you should use. Parents need to be involved in their kids' online lives just like they're involved in their in-person lives. I think the age of the internet is still relatively new,
Yeah.
right? And so when we think about it, we've all just kind of, in the last 10, 15 years, been handed these devices, which are more technologically advanced than the technology used to go to the moon. And they don't come with an instruction manual.
No.
They don't come with a warning. They don't come with anything about how to safely use these things. They just say, here you go, good luck. Now, and then we're giving these to children, right? And, if you give a 16-year-old the keys to a Lamborghini, are they going to drive 45 in the 50, or are they going to drive 100 miles an hour, right? And so I think sometimes we're giving kids a lot of leeway and freedom without that understanding about the dangers that goes with it. But also because as parents, that's kind of what happened to us too. And so how should we be beginning to have these conversations about online safety with our kids, whether they're 7 or whether they're 17? What is it that we want them to know? And so this campaign, the IU2U campaign, is something that we're really kicking off, and you're going to see a lot more of it, that's providing that information, education, and simple steps for parents to follow. Because again, a lot of the times, when we're thinking about, oh my God, online safety, and it's so big, right? We just want it to be small steps, simple things about having conversations. And very much in the same way you have those conversations about body safety, how do you have them with online safety as well?
Absolutely. And no better generation to teach the current generation about online safety than the ones that went through it from the beginning.
Oh, geez.
We are the OGs. I mean, I know the kids don't like to admit it, but we are the last generation between that crux. We were the ones still playing outside when dial-up internet came in, and we know it better. We were in those chat rooms when the predators primed. I vividly remember things and going, oh my gosh, but nobody was having those conversations with us. We grew up and we had to wing it. And so we are the best ones to have that conversation with our kids.
Yeah. And when you think about it too, is parents then, our parents or the parents of the generation, that was going onto the internet, they didn't know that there were these risks online.
Oh, they would have let us on. Trust me.
Yeah. But we do. And yet we still have this bad habit of sometimes allowing our kids to go online to these spaces that we know are dangerous. And so when we call that into question ourselves, we have to say, whoa, wait a minute, let me take a step back. And then where do I start? Right.
Right.
And again, just like with body safety, just like about those risks, about the reality there, it doesn't have to be catastrophized, right? It shouldn't be, if you go in a chat room and you say your name, you're going to be trafficked across the country. It doesn't need to be extreme as that, but it should be about what are the common sense ways that you are safe online. You don't give your name, you don't give any type of identifiable information, you don't say what sports you play, you don't do any of those things anywhere, no matter who you think it is online.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So let's also talk a little bit about the chat support on the website, and I'm gonna hide us. I'm gonna bring up the stream so that people can kind of see here. And so we'll hide. We're gonna solo on here, and Jacob, take us through the new website with this chat support that's going to be going live.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at our website, that's our website. We've had this standing for a good bit of time now. But one of the new additions that we have is on the bottom left, you're going to see there's that little icon that looks like a chat window. Beginning next week, we're going to be designated specific hours, Monday through Saturday, every week, where individuals can come to our website, click on that chat bubble, and they can either leave a message if it's off the hours that we're listing, and we're going to be listing those on our social media site. So you can fill out your name, your email address. When you are leaving a message, you do need to leave that, and what that message is that you'd like to have. But if it's during those hours that we're going to be posting, again, on our social media, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, then and it's one of those times that somebody is going to be on, then you can come on, type out your name, optional. You don't have to write your full name. You can provide an email if you want. You don't have to if you'd like to, and you can begin starting a chat with somebody there. We really wanted to increase our ability to be accessible. People can call us still anytime, 508-375-0410, talk to somebody there, leave a message and somebody call you back. But we also wanted to increase that access for somebody who maybe only has a couple minutes, or maybe they're not comfortable talking on the phone and they want to bounce something off of someone. They have a question, they saw something, they felt something, their child asked them a question, they didn't know how to answer it. We wanted to increase access to kids, teens, and parents, that if they had questions, they could reach out anonymously if they wanted to be able to ask those questions and chat with somebody from Children's Cove about that. This is, again, it's anonymous. Once this chat takes place, once it closes, there's an option to take a survey, but then that chat is completely wiped out. So whatever the content of that conversation will no longer be there. We don't save it as a record. It won't be saved on that person's phone. We do have a section where on our website, on our contact us page, that has FAQs about the chat and how to use the chat. And we teach people right in there how to clear your history and your cache and everything to show that you hadn't been there. Again, we want to make sure that if people are at risk and they're looking for information or making that decision, that they can do that safely in here. So we really wanted to increase that ability to provide support to people, access to us to ask questions, whether it's about conversations about body safety, it's about what happens if I bring my child to Children's Cove, what happens if I make a report to law enforcement. We really wanted to be able to answer those questions and increase that access to our community.
I think that chat feature is absolutely phenomenal, and I think it's a great resource between all these new campaigns, and now this chat feature, which I love that it's going to be, people have the ability to be anonymous. They have the ability, like you said, if they're in a situation where they have to be really safe and don't need it tracked, you're giving them that information. But it's to keep the conversation going. It's to check things. They want you to get the information or get to them that you have questions about. You don't have to be afraid to have it. And if you need to be anonymous, they get that. And so that's really important. What else? You've got some other stuff coming up. So we've got some live educational training and you've got a virtual block party, which I'm super excited about. Can you tell us about those two things coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been kind of in process of doing some recorded trainings, which we're going to have a section on our website. I'm hoping by April we'll have that up where parents, professionals can go and learn some of that education, get some of the trainings that we provide. It's not going to be interactive as it would be if I were doing it in person, but just so you can get that content, you can get that information. But we're also going to be doing some very similar things as the Parent Pod, but we're going to be doing it with guest speakers, national speakers, local partner agencies, doing Q&A style with those that are in the field that we work with. So we're looking to begin those in March. I have to nail down a few details, so I can't plug the dates yet, but I'll make sure that so that we can get that out for
Absolutely.
everybody to know. And then on April 27th, we're going to be hosting our virtual block party. So it's kind of a pun, if you will, is where we're going to be really talking about the IU2U campaign, providing parents, teens, education and information about, why these online safety conversations are really important. This event is for both parents and kids to have together. Obviously, you may have a hard time if you have older kids to drag them into the room to watch it with them. But we want to make sure that we're having these conversations. We're going to have some guest speakers coming specifically to have conversations with parents about, what are some of those realities about online safety, and what are some of those things that you're going to have a give and a take on as a parent. I think sometimes if a child has had something happen online, a kid or a teen, they may not necessarily want to tell their parent if they're worried that their cell phone's going to get taken away, their computer is going to get taken away. And when you think about that in the context of them, if you think about this last year, if you took away somebody's cell phone or computer, what are you really taking away? It's every social connection that person has.
Absolutely.
And so that's not necessarily a proportional response
It's
anymore.
it's almost like a punishment as
Yeah,
opposed to provoking. We gotta approach it with empathy, compassion, and education here.
100%. So having conversations around that, we're going to have speakers coming in to talk specifically to teens about what are those risks, what is the elements of your online life, and how everything you do online is public and everything you do
And
online is
forever,
permanent.
forever.
Permanent, right? And so no matter what it is, even if you think that message disappears, you have your privacy settings set, it's going to be captured. It's held somewhere. It can be saved. It can come back. And what are the things related to that? So we're going to have speakers related who are going to be talking about that. It's going to be hosted by JT from JT's Chronicles, Jonathan Thompson. He is a fantastic friend of mine and a wonderful partner of Children's Cove. Just a fantastic asset to the community. So we're going to be doing giveaways. We're going to be doing prizes. We're going to be keeping that energy up because, again, we want to make sure that we're having parents, kids, teens there. So that is going to be a live event. So that's going to be April 27th. We're going to have more to come on that pretty soon.
And I think I want to get all those details up to our community because I think you can even approach it like this here. Sit down, make a afternoon of it or a morning of it whenever I don't remember what time you said it was, and I know those details are to come, but get comfortable, get in front of the TV, wherever there, or live stream it to the TV. A lot of people have those, or get in front of the
Yeah.
computer, set it up, get some snacks, get yourself some waters, get yourself comfortable and sit down with the kids and make some time for it because it's going to provoke conversations and you're there with them. And, I mean, my plan would be to make an afternoon of it and just have a nice time because you can do that and enjoy it together and get power and knowledge together.
Yeah, it is going to be in the evening. I believe we're settled on 7 o'clock. So just letting you know. And but one of the pieces of that event is going to be around how do you and your child, how do you as the parent and your child, your teen, what are the rules for safety that you're going to have? What are the elements where you're going to have a give and you're going to have a take, and how are you going to be transparent with one another? Because again, just like with body safety, just like with that physical safety, your online safety is also tremendously important. As we had talked about kind of at the beginning, is, we had those 280 children identified as commercial sexual exploitation victims, or those who had been exploited online in some way. Those numbers for us at Children's Cove and across the Cape and the islands of online exploitation, those numbers have just shot up tremendously. And so we know that as kids and as teens are online more, that's also where those individuals who are going to take advantage of kids are. That's where we know mistakes can happen. That's where we know that element of risk is. And so it's even more important now than ever to have those conversations about online safety. And, if you make a mistake, what do you do? And as a parent, how do you respond to it? And how can you get that support to hopefully dial down the severity of that?
Absolutely. I'm going to throw up the hashtag for the campaign right now. IU2U. Knowledge is power, everybody. Knowledge shared is power amplified and multiplied. It kind of cut me off there. But listen, the more we have these conversations, we cannot prevent it 100%. It's not going to happen. But we can have conversations that can empower our children, that can put stopgaps in place. They may prevent it. They may, as a result, your child will open up to you and you can do something about it. You may stop something before it happens, before it snowballs. Knowledge is everything, and having those conversations and not being afraid to have them. It's not taboo. It's normal. It's part of being a human being, our sexuality, and it's a normal part of us. But teaching our children respect for their bodies, and that their bodies, they belong to them. And that is the number one key there, because the more they understand that and believe that, the more empowered they are. And, the less likely mistakes are going to happen, or if a mistake happens, they're going to come to the right people. And that's really the key there.
Yeah, and it's, you hit the nail on the head with a lot of it. And, we do a really great job, again, of teaching kids about, if somebody at a restaurant or at a gas station comes up to a kid and starts asking them questions, or ask them questions about who they are, or ask them to see parts of their body, they immediately know, like, hey, get away from me, and run and ask for help. But online, these kinds of things happen all the time, but the conversation almost never happens. And so that's what we really need to change. There's a really great saying is, when was the best time to plant a fruit tree? It was 20 years ago. When's the next best time? Today, right? Is when we think about having these conversations, even if we didn't have them when they were 5 or 7 or 8 or 10, you can start having them today, and it's going to make a difference. It's going to make an impact. It's going to feel a little more awkward. You're going to say, damn, I wish I started this earlier. But it's better to start it today than to never do it at all, because that risk, that situation may come up tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow, or next week, and you never know. And there's a lot of times where we think about the level of risk, and yeah, maybe it's not, or we recognize our kids are really smart, but it doesn't necessarily always mean that. Sometimes it means that the people who are out there who are meaning to do harm, this is what they do.
Yeah.
They're really smart at it, and they know how to manipulate, and they know how to trick people. And when we're talking about that online piece, there's some common safety measures that can help reduce the risk. I read somewhere, I heard from a speaker somewhere, if you just stuck an ADT sign in your front yard, it's going to reduce the risk of your home being robbed. You don't even need to have the alarm system, but it's going to reduce the risk. Just by starting to do something is going to teach some of these people to stay away.
Absolutely. And it's never too late. Like you said, you might wish you had started earlier, but start today, start tomorrow. You will not regret that. That is not a parenting decision you will ever regret.
Never.
Trust me on that. Again, we grew up with the Wild Wild West. I wish those conversations had happened. I wish they'd happened with our own parents. And they didn't. But our generation can change that, and we can change it for our children. And maybe someday way down the line, maybe we will get rid of it. Maybe we will beat it 100%. And I have faith for that day. It won't be in our lifetime, but I have faith that it will happen.
I try to give myself that goal that, I know right now, if only 1 out of 10 child victims ever disclose. If in my lifetime we can at least get to 2,
Oh,
I'll be happy.
yeah, it would be.
I aim for more than that because I'm ambitious,
Yeah.
but I'd love to see just that.
If anybody has any questions as we're wrapping up here, Jacob and I are going to make a kindness call here in a minute. Thank you, Amy. I think Jacob's pretty amazing too. I'm so glad he's been in our community. I'm so glad that we've been connected with him you've been connected with us pretty much since the beginning, Jacob, right?
Somewhere around there. Yeah, it was right after my daughters were born. I went to the first parent resource fair and I said, I should be here. And we connected right after that.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're an amazing resource. Jacob is very knowledgeable, very intelligent. He'll have the conversations we've had are so beneficial, and I enjoy them so much because you have a great perspective and a lot of knowledge. So, yes, Michelle, I want an ADT sign too. But that's what we need, a big ADT sign on our children. That's what you're empowering them with. It just isn't visible, but they're going to emanate that confidence.
Yeah.
That is
we might have something for that too coming
Yeah.
out with our virtual block party too. So we'll keep you posted.
My mother used to say I had it was like a subliminal thing. You couldn't see it, but it was like people just always approached me. Even as I got older, like not for always this, but like I just looked like an easy target, or they sensed it. And it wasn't until I recognized that and grew this confidence as I got older and became an adult that stopped happening. My mother used to say, just stamp the big FU on your forehead so that it emanates out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I didn't understand that but that's how you have to think of it. Empower them with knowledge so it emanates from them, and that confidence, because it will make them less of a target, or it will make them open up. Jacob, thank you so much. So before we start to wrap up here, we actually, as you know, we do every week, we are recognizing someone in our community, an unsung hero nominated by another mom or dad that is deserving of an act of kindness. And we send them a little something within the week after the show. And so this week we're actually calling to surprise someone, and I hope she's watching because we called her nominator to make sure. And so we're going to call her right now and surprise her and read her nomination. So we'll see if she answers. If not, we'll leave a message.
You can hear this part too.
I do.
Hello.
Hi, Michelle. It's Amy from Cape Cod Moms on the Parent Pod with Jacob. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. We are actually calling to surprise you because you are this week's nomination for an act of kindness from someone.
Oh,
so
sweet.
One of your friends, Jennifer, has nominated you, and I'd like to read it to you right now.
Okay.
All right. She says, Michelle is the best sister, auntie, and mama around. She just moved to Dennis on February 1st and is adjusting to life on Cape Cod, in a pandemic, no less, while her and her husband search for their forever home. She is the most giving person and deserves a little something special to remind her of her home and how amazing she is. We love you, Auntie. Love, Eleanor and Edith.
I'm a crier, so I'm already crying.
Well, we are so honored to surprise you tonight and to surprise you with that little story that someone nominated you with. And we're going to be sending you out something. Once we get off here, will you just text me an address for you? And we'll ship something off the next week. And just thank you so much for being you and holding it down as mom and an aunt and a sister, because, that's what makes the world go around, love and kindness. So thank you so much for being you. And again, we're honored.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, and tune in soon and for other episodes, and hopefully we talk to you again.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Michelle.
Have a good night, Michelle.
Bye. See, it's my favorite. And they always cry. I love it.
It's something that when you think about it, and especially this past year, that challenge of connection, like meaningful connection, and just sometimes just hearing from somebody, whether you know them or not, or just hearing that message, it makes such a difference, because when you don't see a lot of the people you see in your everyday life, you sometimes on those dark days, you think, is anybody thinking about me? Does anybody even miss shooting the breeze with me or having a cup of coffee? It's a feeling that I think can be normal for folks. I mean, I know I've thought it, and it's hard. And sometimes it's just good to send somebody a message to say, hey, I'm still thinking about you, and I really appreciate you as a person.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I kind of think of it. It's we see you. Somebody is seeing you. Somebody cares, whether you think so or not. And that's kind of why we like to do that. As that we know how hard it is. There's no manual with parenting either. Just like the internet, it's the wild, wild
Absolutely
west.
not.
And guess what? We all know how hard it can be. Jacob and I,
Absolutely.
we have days where it's not good.
Not good. Yep, it's hard to keep going sometimes,
It
but
really is. And but then you have really great days. And
you do.
but again, like you said, when somebody just calls you up out of the blue, whether you know them or not, or you're standing in the grocery line, and I've heard stories, my friend that happened to, and her child was having a meltdown, and the older woman behind her said, "You got this." I've
Yeah.
had that happen to me. I've had to walk out of the Daily Brew with a melting down child, and another mom was walking in. She goes, "You got this, mom. I got
Yeah.
you. I see you." And
Right.
that it brought tears to my eyes after I buckled them in. I'm sitting there trying to get myself together, but it was like, okay, I feel that's what I needed right then, So
Sometimes when you're at your worst, you just need somebody to tell you you're doing a great job, because you usually are.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely our favorite part of the week. And for those of you who don't know how to nominate someone, or you're thinking about nominating someone, it can be anyone in the region. We want to call and surprise them. Get those nominations going. We want lots and lots to pick from. We're building them up. There's going to be one every week. So if we don't pick yours right away, don't worry. Trust me, we're going to get to all of you. And this is the link down here. You can not only submit questions for our upcoming guests, or you can get in contact with our website if you have questions for a past guest. If you want to submit an anonymous question, like you like to eat cookies in the closet, your kids' Girl Scout cookies, like myself, that's okay. We'll keep it anonymous. We won't share, but you can also nominate someone. So we want to see lots of these. And as we go into the summer, we're looking for sponsors, and if we can get some bigger bags and recognize more than one person, we would love to do that. So keep them rolling in here. We always leave the guests, as Jacob, with the final word of the night. So do you have any last minute points, things that you want to share, or advice for everyone?
Oh man, I wasn't thinking about this one. I think one of the things that I'm reflecting on, after nearly being home for a year with my kids, which this last year was as challenging as a blessing as well. I work a lot, travel a lot, spend a lot of time on the road, and a lot of the times I'd leave before my kids got up, and I'd get home, and they'd only be awake for 2 or 3 hours before they went to bed. And so a lot of the time that I've been home and working from home this past year, I have spent more time with them than since the time they were born. And I really started to think a lot about how important those conversations are with our children, about not just these things, not just about body safety and online safety. Those are very important conversations. I'm not shooting myself in the foot here. but just about anything about having that conversation, having communication, having dialogue with your children, asking them, what was the best part of your day? Or what was something that was difficult for you? Tell me what you dreamt about last night. What is something that you want to do in the future? Just the importance of conversation with your children, even on those really crappy days when you don't want anyone to talk to you. Um, Man, I just appreciate it so much. And so if we
It's
can take just a little bit of those conversations, that time to focus on safety for their future, we can make a really big change in the generations to come. And so I'd encourage everybody to do that and just take that time.
Absolutely. And as the pandemic, seems to be winding down, at least according to the governor, um, continue to take that time. We still
Absolutely.
have that time. Take that time. Have the conversations that matter. And whether it's about that body and online safety, even just having the conversation regularly with your children, sit down at family dinner, talk to them. What's the best part of your day, like you said? And then if you can work in those other things, even better. And don't wait. Start now. Start
Absolutely.
now.
And if you want those tips, Amy has our website up, childrenscove.org. We have a parent section. We have, guides on how to have those conversations. We're on social media. We have a lot of information coming out there. You'll have access to give us a call. You'll have access to chat with us. We want to help you. We want to support you in doing that. So please feel free to reach out.
And definitely tune in for the block party, which we will be talking about. We'll announce it a couple of times on the upcoming parent pods out throughout March once we get the firm information from you to share the okay. And we'll be putting it up on the website because it's crucial. Childrenscove.org is your go-to resource, chat functions, all those videos for the campaigns are up there. They have a wealth of information. Definitely check it out. And for those of you who would like to reach out to us, or if you have questions or you need to be connected with people like Jacob or anybody else, please reach out to us. You can reach us at info@capecodmoms.com. And coming up next week, we are going to be joined by Nicole Mitchell and her team from Kind Hearts for Kids. They work with fundraising and work with the foster care population here in the region and on Cape Cod. A vital, vital resource. March 12th is going to be an exciting episode. Jacob, you're definitely going to want to turn in for this one. It's Ladies' Night Makeup Tutorial with Kelly, Melissa, and I. And we will be trying our hand at a funny YouTube makeup tutorial that we watch and then we try to recreate it and teach each other how to do it. Also, still, we think we're YouTube stars. We're going to try. It'll be fun. Bring a cocktail. And then after that, we're going to have Mike Morrison from Ride Away Adventures to discuss all the fun things happening outside as we gear back up, 45 degrees plus. Lisa Perna from Get Outside Cape Cod, some more fun episodes. Erin Edwards from Upper Cape Med Aesthetics, and Chef Rachel Hargrove from Below Deck. That'll be an interesting one. We're going to make Vietnamese spring rolls. And we have a bunch of other guests in the meantime. So definitely tune in. And we're so happy you guys all joined us. Michelle, I'm so happy your night was made. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so glad you were with us tonight and we were able to surprise you in lifetime. That makes my night. Don't forget to text me your address after. So thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next week on the Parent Pod.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night.